This connection is divine. Trust it, even if your mind questions it, even if your surroundings cast doubt on it, your soul already knows. There is a whisper in your heart, a warmth that floods your spirit, and a pull that logic cannot explain. You're not imagining it. You're not exaggerating it. What you are feeling is real. It's sacred. And it's been written long before the two of you ever crossed paths in this physical world. When something touches your soul so deeply that it leaves an imprint, it isn't a coincidence. It's divine design. You may feel like this connection showed up out of nowhere, but your spirit was already calling it forth. You may have dreamed about this person, seen signs, or felt an inner knowing, all of which were preparation for what was to come. This video is meant to affirm what your heart already knows. Watch it until the end, and allow your spirit to fully align with the truth it already holds. And if you feel moved, write your warmest wishes and 77 in the comments below to energize the universe. This is more than a connection. It's a catalyst for something far greater. What makes a divine connection stand out from the rest is its ability to bypass logic and trigger remembrance. It's like your soul recognizes theirs instantly, like you're finally standing in front of someone who sees into your essence, not just your surface. There's no pressure, no performance, just pure resonance. You feel like you've known them forever, and in a way, you have. Because the threads that bind divine connections are timeless. They are stitched from purpose, intention, and love that exists beyond physical reality. You may feel confused at times because this kind of connection doesn't always follow the rules of the world. It can be unpredictable, challenging, and even emotionally intense. But that's because it's meant to grow you, awaken you, and refine you. It's not meant to fit in the box of what people call normal. A divine connection is often unexplainable to others because it wasn't meant for them to understand. It was meant for you to feel. So when you doubt it, come back to the feeling, the calm, the spark, the magnetism, the way your energy shifts just by hearing their name or seeing their presence. Sometimes, divine connections come into your life to mirror everything you've hidden or suppressed. They challenge your insecurities, reflect your wounds, and force you to evolve. But they also bring healing, validation, and clarity. You're not being punished. You're being elevated. You're not being tested in vain. You're being prepared for a higher version of yourself. And this connection is a vehicle for that transformation. You may be tempted to run when it gets overwhelming. You may question their intentions or your own feelings, but underneath the questions lies something unshakable, a soul bond that refuses to disappear. No matter how much time passes or how much distance exists, the energetic tether between the two of you remains. It might go quiet, it might shift forms, but it never truly dissolves. Because divine connections are not dependent on external conditions. They're based on energetic alignment, and this alignment isn't always constant. Sometimes one of you grows faster, or one of you pulls back to heal. Sometimes one of you isn't ready, while the other is eager to dive deep. But even in those seasons of imbalance, the connection doesn't vanish, it recalibrates. It allows space for integration, for learning, for divine timing to unfold. And when you both return to that place of resonance, it feels as if no time has passed. That's the power of something written in the soul. This isn't about possession, control, or forcing outcomes. Divine connections aren't cages. They're keys. They unlock parts of you that were dormant. They awaken desires you buried. They remind you of who you really are beneath the masks and the stories. And as much as this connection is about the other person, It's also deeply about you, your growth, your healing, your evolution. You were never meant to meet this person to complete you. You met to activate each other. There will be times when ego gets loud, when fear tries to take over, when the need for clarity pushes you into overthinking. In those moments, return to stillness. Listen to the silent pull that doesn't need validation. Pay attention to the signs that show up just when you're about to give up. The dreams, the synchronicities, the inner nudges. They're not random. They're reminders that the universe is still orchestrating this story, even when you can't see the full picture. Some connections are seasonal, some are for lessons, but divine connections carry an eternal flame. Even if you drift apart, the light never fully goes out. It flickers, it waits, it holds space for reunion, reconciliation, or sometimes simply remembrance. Just knowing that someone saw your soul and honored it, that alone can change you. That alone can shift your entire vibration. Then yes, the world might not understand. People might question your intuition. You might even get advice to let go, to move on, to stop believing in something that isn't normal. But this connection isn't meant to be understood with logic. It's meant to be trusted with faith. The more you try to rationalize it, the more confused you'll feel. But the more you surrender to it, the more peace you'll find. Peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you know, deep in your spirit, that this is real. You weren't crazy for feeling something. You weren't delusional for believing in it. What you felt was truth. And even if you walked away or chose a different path, that truth remains. Divine love never punishes. It liberates. It allows you to choose freely while holding space for your return. You're not bound by timelines or rules. You're bound by something sacred, something bigger than both of you. You'll find that divine connections often come with divine timing. Maybe when you least expect it. Maybe when you're healing. Maybe when you're rediscovering who you are. And maybe, just maybe, when you finally stop searching. Because it's not about seeking someone to fix you. It's about becoming so whole within yourself that the connection becomes a celebration, not a dependency. You're not imagining the signs. You're not overthinking the pull. You're not alone in feeling like something extraordinary is at play. It is. Trust it. Even when it challenges you. Even when it doesn't look how you expected. Even when it asks you to let go of everything you thought you knew. Because on the other side of that surrender is something miraculous. A connection that feels like home, like purpose, like divine alignment. Sometimes the universe sends someone into your life not to rescue you, but to reflect you. They hold up a mirror so vivid that you can no longer hide from yourself. And that's where the transformation begins. Not through comfort, but through truth. Not through control, but through surrender. When a connection is divine, it doesn't always arrive in a peaceful package. It might shake you. It might unravel everything you thought you wanted, but it does so to reveal what your soul actually needs. You might have spent years building walls to protect your heart, telling yourself you were better off alone, or convincing yourself that what you had was enough. But then they entered your life, and suddenly, the walls didn't make sense anymore. You started feeling again. You started remembering again. You started craving a level of connection that went deeper than surface-level love. That's not a mistake. That's your soul waking up to its own longing. And that longing is not something to run from. It's something to honor. NTHE Divine doesn't deal in accidents. Every look, every conversation, every moment shared is intentional. Even the pauses, the silences, the separations, they serve a purpose. Maybe you needed time apart to grow. Maybe you had to lose each other to find yourselves. Or maybe you are meant to come into each other's lives not to stay forever, but to ignite something eternal within you both. Either way, it's divine. There are moments when this kind of connection feels like too much to bear. You feel everything more intensely, their joy, their pain, their absence. It's as if your hearts are linked in a way that defies distance or reason. You may go through phases of silence, where communication fades, but the connection remains just as loud. These are not signs of disconnection. They're periods of recalibration. Your souls are still speaking, even when your voices are not. And sometimes, it's not about being together physically. It's about the imprint they've left on your energy. You feel them in music, in dreams, in moments of stillness. You hear their laugh in your mind. You get waves of emotion that seem to come out of nowhere. That's not your imagination. That's the tether between your spirits, still active, still alive, still pulsing in ways that logic cannot comprehend. You'll find yourself changing because of them, healing, evolving, growing in directions you never imagined. You might even become unrecognizable to your past self, and yet it will feel like you're becoming more of who you truly are. Because divine connections don't add something to you. They awaken what's already been within you all along. You become more intuitive, more open, more aware, more in tune with your path. NTHE connection might trigger fear. It might awaken a part of you that is terrified of loss or rejection. But the very fact that you fear losing it is proof of its importance. It means your heart is invested. It means your soul is involved. And it means that this person, in whatever form they've arrived, matters. That alone is sacred. That alone is worth honoring. People often confuse divine connections with easy ones. But the truth is, the most divine bonds are often the ones that challenge us the most. Not because they are toxic or chaotic, but because they ask us to show up with full honesty. They require transparency, vulnerability, and presence. They strip away pretense and demand realness. And that can be scary, especially if you've spent your life protecting your heart from disappointment. You may want to label the connection, define it, place it in a box where it feels safe and understandable. But divine connections don't always come with clear labels. Sometimes they defy categorization. Sometimes they exist in the spaces in between. They live in the glances, the energies exchanged, the silences that say more than words ever could. And it's in those unspoken realms that the magic truly lives. You'll know it's divine because it doesn't feel like possession. It feels like presence. It doesn't suffocate, it liberates. It doesn't try to change you, it amplifies you. It doesn't feed your ego, it nourishes your soul. That's why it lingers. That's why it keeps coming back. That's why even when you try to detach, something deeper keeps pulling you back in. Because your spirit knows. Sometimes you'll have to love this person from afar. Sometimes the greatest act of love is giving them space to become who they need to be. Divine love doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't cling. It trusts. It releases with grace. It believes in the connection, even when the path is unclear. Because the bond doesn't need constant maintenance to exist. It simply is. There will be moments where you doubt what you're feeling, where you wonder if it's all in your head. But then something will happen. A dream, a sign, a message, and you'll remember. You'll feel it again. That certainty in your chest, that warmth in your heart, that unshakable inner knowing, and it will remind you. This connection is real, and it's not over. You may have seen glimpses of what your connection could be at its highest. You've imagined the conversations, the shared purpose, the unconditional understanding. That wasn't fantasy. That was vision. A glimpse of the divine blueprint, a possibility that already exists in the energetic realm, waiting for both of you to rise to meet it. And until then, the connection continues to work on you, to mold you, soften you, awaken you. And no matter where this journey leads, whether it ends in reunion or release, know this: you are forever changed, not because of what they gave you, but because of what they sparked within you. You've touched the edge of the divine through them. You've seen what's possible when two souls align, beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond ego. That experience alone is sacred. And just because something is divine doesn't mean it will always make sense. The universe isn't concerned with linear timelines or human expectations. It works in waves, seasons, and sacred timing. So even if things feel uncertain now, trust that clarity is coming. Trust that what is meant for you cannot miss you. And trust that this connection, no matter what form it takes, is part of your soul's journey. There's a sacred pull in this connection that doesn't weaken with time. It deepens. While the world spins forward and people come and go, there's a place in your heart where this bond still breathes. It doesn't demand attention, yet it quietly reshapes your entire inner landscape. It teaches you what real love feels like, not in the sense of possession, but in the sense of recognition. You recognize their soul in ways words can never fully describe. It's not a memory, it's a knowing. When the divine brings two souls together, it doesn't always promise a clear road. What it promises is transformation. And sometimes, that transformation requires space, silence, reflection, growth. The absence of that person doesn't mean the absence of love. It means the connection is asking to evolve, to become something more refined, more aligned with who you're becoming. That kind of connection can't be rushed. It requires trust in the unfolding. One of the most powerful aspects of a divine connection is its ability to awaken purpose. Not just the purpose of the relationship, but your own. Suddenly, you begin to see life through a new lens. You begin to realize you're here to do something meaningful. And somehow, this connection sparked that awareness. You may not even fully understand how or why. You just feel more awake, more inspired, more in touch with your calling. That's no accident. It's part of the divine design. You may feel as though the universe separated you too soon, before the story even had a chance to unfold. But sometimes the connection is only the beginning, the spark that ignites your journey back to yourself. It doesn't mean it's over. It means that something inside of you needed to be activated before anything else could continue. And now, as you walk your path with this divine thread still tethered to your soul, you begin to find strength in the unseen. There are days when the silence is deafening, when you question everything. Did they feel it too? Do they still think about you? Was it ever real? But even in the absence of answers, your heart continues to pulse with that familiar echo. You still catch your breath when their name appears, even in passing. You still get flashes of them in your dreams, or sudden feelings that they're thinking of you. That's not your imagination. That's energy. And energy doesn't lie. This connection didn't arrive in your life to distract you. It came to awaken you, to redirect your path, to elevate your vibration. Sometimes the most divine encounters are the ones that leave you breathless, even when the air is still. The ones that stretch your soul and leave you unable to go back to who you were before. That change is irreversible, and it's beautiful, because now you know. You know what alignment feels like. You know what soul recognition feels like. And you know what it means to be truly seen. NNOT. Everyone will understand your journey. Some may tell you to forget, to move on, to release what doesn't serve you. But deep down, you know this connection is not about serving your ego. It's about guiding your soul, It's not about clinging to the past. It's about embracing the evolution. You don't have to explain it to anyone. You don't need their approval or agreement, because the connection wasn't theirs to feel, it was yours. You may look back one day and realize that this person changed your life simply by existing in it, even if only for a season. You may never speak again, or you may reunite in the most unexpected way, but the imprint remains. The lessons, the awakenings, the sacred shifts within your heart, all of it was real. Divine connections don't require physical presence to be valid. Their truth exists in the unseen, in the felt, in the essence. And it's possible that they were the one who helped you remember how to love yourself. Or maybe you were the mirror that showed them their light. Maybe you both triggered each other into growth that neither of you were prepared for. But regardless of what form it took, something extraordinary happened between your souls. And that doesn't disappear. Even if the form changes, you might still hold hope. That's okay. Hope is not weakness. It's courage. The courage to believe that the universe has a rhythm beyond what your eyes can see, that there is purpose even in the pause, that the story may not be finished, only paused for a deeper rewrite. And even if that reunion never comes, you've already been changed for the better. You carry the essence of that connection with you, woven into your being. Let yourself grieve if you need to. Let yourself miss them. Let yourself feel every inch of the longing. But also, let yourself rise. Let yourself heal. Let yourself become. The connection was never meant to break you. It was meant to break you open, to crack the shell you were hiding in, and reveal the magnitude of your heart. You have so much more love to give, not just to them, but to life itself. There's something so profound about feeling connected to another soul on that level. It makes everything else pale in comparison. You become more discerning about who you let in. You become more intentional about how you live. You begin to seek depth over distraction, meaning over momentum, stillness over noise. All because one connection reminded you of what's possible when two souls align. And even now, they may be feeling you too. Even now, they may be wondering if the connection was real. Energetic bonds are not confined by space or time. They are felt in the quietest moments, a song, a scent, a fleeting emotion that rushes in without warning. That's your soul saying, "I still remember." And somewhere, on the other side of that unseen thread, their soul whispers back, "Me too." This is not the end of your story. This is not the limit of your capacity to love. This is simply the chapter where you become everything you were always meant to be. And whether or not they walk beside you again, this connection has already done its sacred work. It brought you home to yourself. It cracked the illusion of separation. It revealed the divine within you. NSO, let the bond exist without pressure. Let it breathe without force. Let it remain sacred, even in silence. Because when something is truly divine, it doesn't need to be proven. It simply is. It doesn't fade, it integrates. And it doesn't control, it liberates. You can hold this connection in your heart and still move forward. You can trust in its presence, even in its quiet. And you can honor what it gave you without needing to hold on to what it used to be. There's a special kind of strength that comes from holding space for something you can't fully explain. The strength to trust a connection that exists more in energy than in evidence. To let your heart believe in something your eyes can't always see. Divine connections ask you to walk by faith, not by control. To loosen your grip on outcomes and let the journey unfold with grace. That's not weakness, it's spiritual maturity. It's the quiet confidence of knowing your soul isn't confused, What happens between two souls who are divinely aligned cannot be replicated or replaced. It's not about attraction or compatibility alone. It's about sacred resonance, a deep magnetic familiarity that wraps around your spirit and says, "You are known here." Even in the absence of words, you feel seen. Even in separation, you feel tethered. And even through uncertainty, you feel guided. That's the gift of the divine. It continues to whisper even when the world goes silent. You may try to distract yourself, to move on, to bury what you felt in busyness or in other people, but nothing quite compares. Because what you had, what you still have, isn't something you can replace. It lives in a frequency that few ever reach. It's not rooted in the physical, it's coded in your spirit. And when your spirit has been touched by something divine, it remembers. Your soul doesn't care about logic. It doesn't care about timelines, distance, or what should be. It cares about truth, about energy, about alignment. It knows when it meets a kindred flame. It doesn't ask for proof. It feels the pull. And in that moment of recognition, you are changed. You can't go back to sleep. You can't pretend you didn't feel it. You can only continue to evolve with it, or away from it, but never around it. There's a sacred patience required when you're navigating something divine. It's not about forcing clarity, but allowing revelation. The more you try to control it, the more tangled it becomes. But when you step back, breathe and trust, you give space for miracles to move. Divine connections often unfold in layers. What seems like an ending might just be a pause. What feels like distance might be divine preparation. Trust that if it's meant, it will return, but not out of lack or desperation. It will return because both souls have done the work, because the energy has matured, because the timing has aligned. You don't have to hold on with force. You just have to hold the frequency. You just have to keep becoming the version of you that the connection called forth in the first place. Divine love doesn't just appear to satisfy your heart, it appears to expand it. You begin to love differently, with more presence, with more reverence, with more truth. You start to honor your intuition more deeply. You learn to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. You build inner peace that no external circumstance can shake. Because this connection taught you that love is not about control. It's about surrender. This connection, no matter how it came, no matter how it unfolded, was sacred. And even if it doesn't return in the way you imagined, it was never wasted. It opened you, it shaped you, it called you higher, and it introduced you to a version of yourself that only sacred love could awaken. That alone is a miracle. Maybe you're still waiting. Maybe you're still hoping. Maybe part of you wonders if they're thinking of you too. And maybe they are. But don't let waiting stop your becoming. Don't let longing steal your growth. Keep walking. Keep listening. Keep rising. Because sometimes the reunion is not with them. It's with your purpose. Sometimes the divine uses a connection to shift your entire direction. And even if the person doesn't come with you, the shift was still meant. There are layers of meaning in every divine interaction. Every look, every silence, every reunion or separation holds messages. Sometimes the purpose was to show you the power of energy. Sometimes it was to teach you forgiveness, patience, or self-worth. Sometimes it was to activate your gifts or awaken your path. Don't underestimate what this connection awakened. Don't belittle the spiritual awakening it triggered. If you ever feel lost, return to the truth. This connection was real, not because it was consistent, but because it was sacred. Not because it was perfect, but because it was purposeful. And if you can feel it in your bones, that's enough. You don't need validation to believe what your soul already knows. The proof is in the way you were changed. Some days, you may wish you had more closure, a proper ending, a full circle conversation. But divine connections don't always close the way ordinary ones do. Sometimes the closure is energetic. A dream, a message, a feeling of peace. Sometimes the closure is internal. Your own choice to forgive, to release, to bless them as you walk your path. You don't need to hear from them to heal. You don't need to hold them to honor what you shared. Let yourself love without attachment. Let yourself remember without pain. Let yourself hold space without fear. When you approach this connection from a place of trust, not control, it becomes a gift. It becomes a teacher. It becomes a sacred reminder of the divine at work in your life. And it becomes an invitation to deepen your faith, to expand your heart, to believe in the unseen. NTHE Universe is not done writing your story. If this connection is part of your next chapter, it will reappear, not because you chased it, but because you aligned with it. Not because you forced it, but because you grew into it. And if it doesn't return, something even more aligned is on its way. Not a replacement, but a continuation of the divine unfolding. NTHE, most beautiful thing you can do now is honor the connection without clinging to the outcome. Trust that what was real remains. Trust that your heart is not broken. It's blooming. Trust that the divine knows exactly what it's doing, even if you don't. Because when you walk in alignment with love, you are never off course. Even when you don't know where you're going, your soul does. NSO, breathe. Rest. Release the pressure. Let the connection be what it is. Sacred, eternal, evolving. You don't have to solve it. You don't have to define it. You just have to trust it. And in trusting it, you begin to trust yourself. You begin to hear the voice within more clearly. You begin to recognize that the divine was never outside of you. It was always within you, speaking through the love you felt, the growth you experienced, and the grace that carried you through. There are times when this connection will stir something so powerful inside of you that it feels like your entire world has been reset. Your perception of relationships, of energy, of yourself, all of it begins to shift. This isn't just an emotional experience, it's a spiritual reorientation. You don't just fall for someone, you awaken through them. And through that awakening, your life begins to align in unexpected ways. And it's common to wonder, why them? Why this connection? But perhaps the better question is, why now? The divine often brings people together, not just because they're meant to be together, but because they are meant to activate something within each other at a specific moment in time. Maybe you met because you were ready to see yourself clearly. Maybe they came into your life to awaken your intuition, or to remind you of a part of your soul you'd forgotten. Don't be surprised if your gifts began to expand after meeting them. You may have become more sensitive, more aware of synchronicities, more in tune with your emotions and dreams. You may have started to see the world differently, not through your mind but through your heart. These aren't side effects of love. They are the echoes of soul recognition. This kind of connection opens portals within you that no one else could access. You might also find yourself walking away from things that once felt safe. Old relationships, outdated beliefs, comfort zones that no longer resonate. This person didn't force that change. They simply illuminated it. They became the mirror that showed you the truth you were ready to face. And once your spirit sees that truth, it can't unsee it. That's the power of divine presence. It gently but irrevocably changes your direction. NNOT. All divine connections are meant to be romantic forever. Sometimes, what begins as romance becomes a lifelong spiritual bond, or a catalyst for mission, or a moment that splits your timeline into before and after. There's no one right form for divine love to take, and trying to confine it to just one path may limit the very wisdom it came to offer. This is where surrender becomes your greatest tool. Surrender not as defeat, but as devotion. Because when you surrender to the connection, to its timing, its lessons, its form, you create space for the divine to breathe. You stop demanding answers and start listening. You stop chasing and start receiving. You stop fearing loss and start embodying love. The moment you stop grasping at the connection and begin embodying its energy, your life begins to shift. Not because they returned, but because you returned to yourself. Sometimes you won't get the closure you think you need. But divine connections teach you that closure doesn't always come from conversations. It comes from inner peace, from choosing to trust that what was felt was real even if it ended, from recognizing that some endings are doorways in disguise, and from learning to hold gratitude even for what broke you open, because it also built you into someone stronger. One of the most profound aspects of this kind of love is that it never truly ends, it transforms. It may leave your daily life, but it never leaves your energetic field. It becomes a part of your frequency, your story, your inner world. You begin to carry their memory like a sacred echo, not with sorrow, but with reverence. You don't need them to validate the connection. You validate it by the way it shaped your heart. Your healing doesn't mean forgetting them, it means integrating them. It means taking what was sacred and weaving it into your essence. And it means trusting that if the bond was real, it doesn't need to be constantly reinforced to remain alive. It just is. It lives within you, even as you grow, evolve, and move forward. Healing means becoming bigger than the pain, not erasing the love. There may be times when you feel their energy unexpectedly, a wave of emotion, a dream that feels too vivid, a pull in your chest that you can't explain. These are not illusions. These are reminders. They're signals that the connection is still active, still breathing in the background of your life. You don't have to act on them. You don't have to interpret them. Just receive them, honor them. Let them remind you that love like this doesn't vanish. NTHE, greatest proof of a divine connection isn't how often you speak. It's how deeply you were transformed. It's not in the photos or memories, but in the way your soul expanded, in the way you began to trust your inner voice more, in the way you started seeking meaning in everything. That evolution is the real gift. That transformation is the proof that this wasn't ordinary. Sometimes the connection was meant to stretch you, not satisfy you. Sometimes it came not to settle you down, but to wake you up, to shake you out of your slumber, to awaken a passion, a longing, a higher purpose. And once it has served its purpose, whether it remains in your life or not, you are left with a new level of consciousness, a new relationship with yourself, and that's divine. You might not always know what to do with the feelings. You may not always understand why your heart still aches, why your spirit still calls their name in silence. That's okay. The heart doesn't follow rules. The soul doesn't move on with dates on a calendar. Divine connections work on their own timeline, and the only thing required of you is presence. Stay present with your heart. Stay honest with your emotions, and stay open to what's still unfolding. And even when the world tells you to forget, to move on, to close the chapter, you know something sacred passed between you, and that knowing is enough. You don't have to force healing, you don't have to prove anything. Just breathe, just trust. Let the connection rest in your heart like a sacred flame. Let it burn quietly, softly, and eternally. No matter what comes next, there's something you must understand about divine connections. They are never confined by ordinary rules. They are not based on logic, consistency, or even predictability. They are born from alignment, resonance, and soul contract. And because of that, they may not behave in ways you've come to expect. You may experience profound silence or sudden reappearances or long stretches of uncertainty. But even through all of that, one truth remains constant: the connection is real. It may take time to fully comprehend why this soul entered your life. You might not grasp it in the moment, especially if the connection brought more questions than clarity. But divine connections rarely make sense at first. They are revelations, not conclusions. They show you something raw and real, then leave you to uncover its meaning over time. And the meaning is always deeper than the surface story. In fact, many divine connections enter through emotional chaos, not because the bond is wrong, but because the frequency is high, and your old beliefs can't hold it. You may feel destabilized, confused, even overwhelmed. But this is not a sign of weakness. It's a recalibration. Your emotional system, your energy field, and even your subconscious is being restructured to hold something greater. That kind of transformation doesn't happen quietly. NIF, you're being asked to sit in silence now, to hold the connection in your heart without any confirmation or response. It doesn't mean the energy is gone. It means it's being refined. There are lessons still unfolding. There is healing still taking place. The silence isn't empty. It's sacred space. And your ability to remain open-hearted during this time is the foundation for whatever comes next. There is an ancient wisdom embedded in divine timing. When something is truly meant, it doesn't require force to manifest. All it requires is readiness, on both sides. Sometimes, one soul is still learning how to receive love. Sometimes, the other is discovering how to offer it fully. Sometimes, the gap is emotional, sometimes physical, sometimes karmic. But whatever the delay, trust that it's purposeful. Nothing is wasted. Not even the waiting. You might see them in dreams, hear their name out of nowhere, or feel their energy during pivotal moments in your life. These are not accidents. They are signals from the divine, gently reminding you that the story is still alive. Even if the pages are blank for now, the book hasn't closed. It's simply waiting for the right moment to write again. Let that reminder bring you peace, not pressure. When you meet someone who sees your soul, not your mask, not your achievements, but the essence beneath it all, it changes the way you relate to others. You can no longer pretend. You crave authenticity. You start speaking from your heart more. You begin seeking connections that nourish, not numb. That one encounter reshapes your entire emotional ecosystem. Divine connections have the power to alter your trajectory. Sometimes they come to lift you. Sometimes they come to push you. And sometimes they arrive to teach you how to love in a way you never have before. Freely, fearlessly, and without condition. That kind of love is not soft. It's strong. It asks you to face yourself, to take responsibility, to choose faith over fear. That's why it's divine, because it demands your evolution. And that evolution doesn't end just because the other person isn't beside you. In fact, your most significant growth may come in their absence, because now you're no longer relying on their energy. You're carrying it within. You're moving from external connection to internal embodiment. You're becoming what the bond awakened in you. And that is how you know the connection was never lost. It was internalized. This kind of love will raise your standards, not in a judgmental way, but in a soul-honoring way. You'll no longer settle for shallow attention or empty conversation. You'll crave the kind of depth that awakens your spirit. The kind of connection where words aren't needed, where energy speaks louder than anything. That desire will lead you into new territory, spiritually, emotionally, and energetically. You will become more sensitive, more intuitive, more conscious of your choices. You'll recognize that your energy is sacred, and that not everyone is meant to access it. That awareness comes from being seen so deeply once, you'll never again allow yourself to be unseen. You'll never again shrink to fit. That's the legacy of a divine connection. It expands you even when the person is no longer present, and it's okay to still miss them, to still think about them, to still feel waves of emotion that catch you off guard. That's not weakness. That's remembrance. The heart remembers what the mind can't explain. And in that remembering, you are reminded of who you are, of what love can be, of what your soul is capable of. Don't shame yourself for remembering. Honor yourself for loving. Let yourself be a sanctuary for this connection, not a shrine to the past, but a sacred space for integration. Let it live in you without consuming you. Let it inspire you without imprisoning you. Let it be the melody in your heart, not the noise in your mind. When you approach it with reverence, it becomes an offering, a living prayer of love between two souls. There is no need to chase. There is no need to rush. What is meant will return in a way that is whole, aligned, and true. And if it never returns in the way your mind hoped, trust that the blessing still remains. The love was never meant to be confined. It was meant to be channeled into your purpose, into your creations, into your own becoming. You are not the same person who met them. You've grown. You've stretched. You've faced truths you never wanted to face. You've discovered depths within yourself you didn't know existed. That growth was part of the plan. That transformation was part of the connection. And that, in itself, makes the connection sacred, not because of what happened between you, but because of what happened within you. NSO continue. Keep honoring what was, without clinging to what no longer is. Keep loving in a way that reflects the divine. Keep trusting your path, even when you walk it alone. Because the moment you felt that connection, you were never really alone again. A part of you, and a part of them, became woven together in a way that defies time and space. And that truth lives on, whether spoken or silent. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when you're asked to let go of needing answers, to release the longing for certainty, to surrender the impulse to control what's never been yours to control. And in that space, something extraordinary happens. You find peace, not because you understand everything, but because you no longer need to. Divine connections don't require resolution to be real, they require faith. And in that quiet faith, you are set free. What if the whole purpose of this connection was to bring you back to yourself, to help you see who you are when you are deeply open, deeply loving, deeply alive? What if the relationship was never meant to be defined by permanence, but by power, the kind of power that breaks chains, dissolves illusions, and returns you to your essence? What if this person's greatest gift was never staying, but showing you the capacity of your heart, the depth of your soul, the strength of your truth? That's what divine connections do. They don't always give you forever, but they give you forever inside. They leave an eternal imprint, a vibration that never fully leaves, no matter how far the paths diverge. It's not about holding on. It's about carrying forward. And yes, sometimes they return when the time is right, when the energy has aligned, when the souls are ready. Not to repeat the past, but to create something new. But whether they return or not is not the measure of the connection's value. The measure is in who you became because of it. The love you're now able to give to yourself, to others, to life. That's the miracle. That's the divine. You are not broken because the connection didn't look how you imagined. You are not lost because the path changed. If anything, you are more found than ever, because now you know what truth feels like. Now you understand what it means to be seen and to see. Now you walk with a heart that remembers, that recognizes, that reveres. Some connections are gifts, some are teachers, some are both. And when you encounter one that holds the power to change your entire energetic frequency, you must honor it, no matter what form it takes. You don't need to post it, prove it, or even explain it. The soul knows, and that knowing is the sacred language that transcends every human limitation. There may still be days when your chest tightens unexpectedly, when you feel their presence like a breeze through your spirit, when you wonder if you'll ever speak again, or laugh together, or sit in that familiar silence that says everything. And it's okay to feel that. It's okay to want that. But don't let that longing overshadow the truth. You are whole now. You've integrated the sacred. You've made room for divinity within your own heart. NTHE, most powerful connections are those that liberate you. They don't make you smaller to fit inside them. They stretch you. They challenge you to rise, to awaken, to love from a higher place. And you did. Whether it lasted a season or a lifetime, you loved in a way that altered the very structure of your being. That is never wasted. That is always divine. Sometimes you'll find that your love becomes prayer. Not the kind that begs for something, but the kind that simply offers. You release them with grace. You bless their path. You thank their soul, even in their absence. And in doing so, you become a vessel for divine energy to flow through you, not because of them, but because of who you became in the presence of that sacred recognition. This is your reminder. You can love them and still move forward. You can hold space and still make space. You can remember the connection without living in the past. You don't have to harden your heart to protect it. You don't have to explain what only your soul understands. You just have to keep trusting, keep surrendering, keep believing that the divine doesn't make mistakes. Maybe you'll meet again in a new season with new eyes and fuller hearts. Maybe you'll cross paths at the exact moment you're both ready for what couldn't exist before. Or maybe you'll never meet in the physical again, but you'll carry the echo of that love as a sacred rhythm within you forever. Either way, it lives, it breathes, it matters. And now it's your turn, not to wait, but to live, to bring the love you discovered into every corner of your life, to treat people with more compassion, to create with more passion, to walk with more presence. Because this connection was never just about them. It was about what you could become together and separately. It was about how you could raise the vibration of love itself. NSO walk in trust. Know that what was real will never truly die. That what was sacred is now part of your soul's fabric. And that no matter how far your paths may stretch, your spirits are always in communion. You are connected in the only way that matters. Through essence, through truth, through divine remembrance. This connection is divine. Trust it. Trust the way it woke you up. Trust the way it shifted your path. Trust the way it reminded you that love is not just an emotion, but a frequency. A frequency that continues long after the conversation ends, long after the goodbye, long after the door has closed. Love, real love, doesn't need a door to exist. It simply is. And you are now a keeper of that love. a vessel of that light, a witness to something few ever experience. Let it live in you. Let it guide you. Let it remind you that no matter what happens from this point on, your soul has touched something eternal, and that is more than enough.